Video lesson number 1, simple interest. Before we get started, we're just going to go through some of the terminology that you're going to need throughout this unit, Unit 7, Finance Math. So let's just look through these terms and you should get familiar with them because they're going to come up throughout, as I said, the entire unit. So the first one is principal, and its variable is P, and that's the initial amount that you invest in order to save money. So it's the amount invested or borrowed. For today's lesson, our term is simple interest, which has a capital I as its symbol, and it's the interest that is earned on the principal only. So that is very important because depending on the different types of interest that we'll be discussing, simple interest is the only one that earns interest only on the initial amount that you invest. Next is the accumulated amount, which has the symbol capital A, and that's the total money an investment holds, including the principal and the interest. So that's all your earnings, all the savings that you've collected over however much time you've been saving. Here. And per annum, this will come up again very often throughout this unit, and that just is a fancy financial word for each year. So if you're given a specific interest rate and it says like 6% per annum, that just means that you're getting 6% interest for the year on your investment. Now, of course, I've lost my toolbar, so I have to get it back. 1 second. Okay, I have my toolbar back. All right, so let's just go through an example that's going to model exactly how simple interest works on an investment. So how much will I earn? Mrs. May is saving for her next trip to Florida in 5 years. She invests $600, earning 7% per annum, so that's for the year, simple interest. So you want to always look for the term simple interest in the problem, because if it is a simple interest problem, you know that the interest is only being earned on the principal, which is the amount you invested, and there's a specific way to calculate simple interest in comparison to the other ones. So let's take a look at the table. Year 1. So her principal is the initial amount she invested. So in this case, it's just 600. Whoa. Okay, that's not what I wanted to do. I want my pen. Here we go. 600. And interest is going to be the amount, which is 7%. Multiplied by the principal. So whenever you're given a rate, you want to take that percent, convert it to a decimal. So that's the same as 7 divided by 100. And that's the same as 0.07. So you would never ever put a percent directly into any of the finance math formulas. You should always convert them first to decimal and then use them in your calculation. So here it's going to be 600 times 0.07, and I'm just using, this is your standard formula for interest just for the year. So it's just your principal times R, which in this case R stands for rate, and that's going to give us 42. So in the first year, she earned $42 on her $600 investment. Then A, remember A represents accumulated amount, and that's the total amount of money you have. So it's going to be your principal, P, which was 600, plus the amount of interest you earned in that year, so 42, for a total of $642. Okay, let me just bring this down a bit. Second year, her principal is now what she has at the end of the first year, which is $642. But her interest is not going to be calculated using her new principal because it's simple interest. When it's simple interest, unfortunately, you only get interest calculated on the original amount that you invested. So even though she now has more money in there, she's still getting interest calculated on the initial 600. So again, it's going to be $42. So her amount is going to be the 642 she had, plus the new interest for that year, for a total of $684. Okay, year 3, she's now has $684. And I don't need to do the calculation now because it's simple interest, which means it's always going to be 42 because it's based on the 600. And then her new amount is 684 plus 42 for a total of 726. Okay, dollar signs here. And so now her new principal is 726. Her interest, again, it's always going to be 42 based on the original amount, the principal, and then 726 plus 42 for a total of 768. And then her new principal is 768, 42, and then we add them for a total of 810. So in 5 years, she accumulated, a total of $810, which means that if you think about her principal being 600, that was her principal, her total amount of interest was 210, okay, of that total amount. Okay, so here are the formulas that you'll be using for simple interest questions. And it will say every time in the question, it'll say the words simple interest. So you maybe underline them in the question and then know that these are your formulas. The first one is I equals PRT, where I is just the simple interest earned on the principal P. P is the amount you invested. And then R, is the interest rate. Sorry, my pen is getting, is the interest rate earned that's been given by the bank or wherever you're investing your money. But the thing you have to remember is that you have to take the rate and divide it by 100. Okay, so let's move on and let's try an example here. Oh, no, let's not, because I'm not finished this slide. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I had to go and find my toolbar again and fix something on the computer. So I had to pause, but I'm back now and I forgot that I'm still going here. All right, so we had I equals PRT. I was our interest, P was our principal, R was the rate as a decimal, and then T, and this is very important for time must, there goes my toolbar again, jeez. Time must be in years. So let's see if I can find my toolbar. It just keeps doing that. It's very frustrating. Okay, I got my toolbar back. Let's see if it'll stay this time. So the time must be in years. So if they give you the time in something other than years, then you need to convert it to years in order to use the I equals PRT formula. Okay, now once you've calculated your interest, you can calculate your accumulated amount by simply adding the interest that you've calculated to the original amount that you invested, your principal. So that's what this is. A is your accumulated amount, and it's going to be your principal added with the interest that you calculated using I equals PRT. So let's do an example. Susie invests $750 for 8 years at 6.5% per annum, and there it is, simple interest. So you know that you're using the I equals PRT formula. So how much interest is earned? So that's this formula to calculate interest. P is your principal, which is the original amount you invested. So 750. You don't need to put dollar signs into the formula. You can save the dollar signs for your concluding statement. Next is R, which is our rate, which is 6.5%, which is the same as 6.5 divided by 100. And if you want to do it quickly, it's the same as moving the decimal to the left 2 spaces. So this would just be 0.065. And get used to these small numbers because when you're doing money, the rates are usually small decimals. And then when you divide it by 100, it's even smaller. So it's okay to have all these zeros. And the time is 8 years. So you want to check that it's in years. And it is. So we don't have to worry about converting it to years. And then you just calculate that. And I have it here. 390. And since it's a word problem, we have our concluding statement. Therefore, Susie earned $390 in interest. Okay. And now the second part of that question is, what will the total value of the investment be? So that's her accumulated amount, which is this formula, her principal plus the interest she earned, and her principal, let's go back because I forgot already, 750. And the interest, we just calculated that in part A, that's 390. Just gonna put that here. And I don't know why there's this random line here, so we can just ignore that. And that's going to be 1,140. So therefore, the total value of the investment will be, and this is where you can insert your dollar sign, 1,140. And there is no cents, but whenever it's money, you should know that it's going to be 2 decimal places. The question will not tell you to round to 2 decimal places. You just should know that it's going to be 2 decimals. So if there were decimals, just make sure you round properly to the nearest hundredth. So that's the second decimal. Okay, and the homework, which I forgot to type in, but it's going to be page 4 in your finance workbook, numbers 1 to 7. So with everything that we've covered in this short lesson, you should be able to work through those questions, and we'll follow up this lesson tomorrow. Have a good night.